Hello everyone, and welcome to week 4 of English 200. This week, we're going to continue looking at creative nonfiction. We're going to start with talking a little bit about the writer Cheryl Strayed's book Wild and how she used metaphor as meaning. We're going to look at different types of creative nonfiction, and I will be talking to you a little bit about the stages of revision when it comes to writing creative nonfiction. Your assignments for this week include a discussion where you're going to be spending time discussing the creative nonfiction essays that you're going to be reading for this week. They're uploaded as a PDF, so you don't have to worry about reading from the book this week. But just a note, guys, we will be back in working from the book next week, so please make sure you have access to your book for week 5 and 6. You'll have 2 writing journal exercises. The first one is you're going to practice writing a lyric essay. And the second one, you're going to be writing a researched essay. Don't be afraid of that. It's not the kind of research you're used to. Finally, you're just going to be looking at one of those that you liked. And you're going to spend time really revising it. I am going to give you some detailed information on revision, but this week I expect serious revisions, you guys. If you don't change it between the writing exercise and the formal assignment, you will lose a lot of points. So please, this week, try really hard to spend time changing your assignment. And this week's reading is just an uploaded packet of short creative nonfiction essays. All right, well, let's start off by talking about metaphor as meaning. The writer Cheryl Strayed wrote a best-selling creative nonfiction book called Wild. It was actually an Oprah book, or Oprah Book Club book. But it's a really fascinating thing to learn about how this book came into being. In order to understand Wild and how talking about a personal journey can become universal, I'd really like you guys to watch the video that I have placed here. And there's also a short reading selection. If you click on the second link, it's called 10,000 Things, and it's one of the chapters from Wild. Wild is a full-length creative nonfiction book, but the way that Wild works is it's a true story. So it's about Cheryl Strayed's life. She lost her mother really young. Not really young, she was in college, and her mother died suddenly of cancer. And Cheryl talks about in the book how she just lost herself. She started really terrible behavior. She was doing heroin. She was really just lost as a human being. And for some reason, she was drawn to hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. Now, the Pacific Crest Trail is a trail that starts all the way down in Mexico on the west coast, and it goes all the way up to Washington. She did not hike the whole thing, but she hiked a huge section of it, and she did so without much training, with way too much gear, and it was pretty risky. But in the process of hiking the trail, she found who she was again, and her story is a very personal story. You know, she reveals a lot of things about herself that a lot of us would feel uncomfortable revealing. But by being so specific about her personal journey, she actually made a universal book. If you walk down the street and ask 10 people if they read Wild, you'd probably find one who's read her book. It's that popular. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. In fact, if you guys want to read it and then report back on it within the next 2 weeks, which would be really hard, you can, and you can get 10 points extra credit if you write a brief write-up about it. But please don't do it if it's going to take away from your time to do your own writing. So I'd just like you guys to take a look at this excerpt called 10,000 Things, where she uses a concept from the Tao Ching, the idea of our personal relationship with what is of our world, of things and people, and that's where that story begins. So anyways, I want you to just look at this as an example of how you can use a metaphor. Her metaphor is the Pacific Crest Trail, this huge trail. she hiked it completely unprepared, but because she tells us a story in a very, very personal way, it's like we can all walk on that trail with her and find ourselves. It's a very, very, very powerful metaphor. All right, there's so many different types of creative nonfiction. What I'd like you to do is to read through the anthology of creative nonfiction that I've uploaded for you guys. It's actually a chapter from the same book that we are working from. It's just I got you guys the 2-genre book rather than the 4 because we're only doing 3. So I was trying to save you some money. But it's the same writer. It's David Starkey. When you read these essays, I want you to read like a writer. So that means I want you to try and understand how each author does what he or she does in his or her essay, okay? So what methods is the writer using? What metaphors, what similes, how is what's the order of how things are being told? The first essay, The Mute Sense, it's all about a sense, right? It's understanding a sense. It's both research and it's a little bit lyric. My Papa's Waltz is a reflection on that's connected to a famous Theodor Rutke poem also called My Papa's Waltz, but it's about a man's relationship with his father who drank too much. And it's a surprising essay. It's memoir, research, and lyric at the same time. Westbury Court is an amazing memoir with a framing metaphor. See if you can figure out which is the metaphor that's at the center of it. And that's Edwidge Dandicott, I believe. I'm not going to remember all the authors' names, sorry. In Bed, Joan Didion. That's also a memoir. It's an essay where she's reflecting on her own personal relationship with migraine headaches. And the migraine headaches are the framing metaphor. In the Dark is a fascinating essay it's a lyric essay. It's about the island of Bali. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but I thought that the essay really captured the essence of the strangeness of that place and magicalness of that place. The Witching Hour is a beautiful essay about a child's, it's a reflection, a memoir, with a framing metaphor. And this is about a young girl's basically coming of age, understanding her cultural heritage and how it isn't understood, and it's a beautiful essay. Late July, 4:40 a.m. is a lyric essay. It's gorgeous. And Dreads is a memoir research, and I want you to really think about how Alice Walker is using research in this essay, Dreads, because it's not your typical I'm going to Google this, I'm going to go to the library and get out these research books and look up the history of this. It's more like being an investigative reporter where she talks to people who have dreads, goes to concerts and sees people with dreads. Like the idea of her research is creative nonfiction research. So it'll start to open you up to understanding how to do research as a writer. It's totally different. It's pretty fun, I have to say. So for this week, what I want you to do is, after reading all those essays, I want you to choose one of the essays from this week's readings that really spoke to you, okay? The one you like the best. And let's all try to choose different ones if possible. I don't want us all to write about the same one, but I understand if you really like an essay, do it, okay? Whatever you're connecting with. But I want you to talk about how the author really artfully tells his or her story. What is he or she doing that is artful? Like how is this not just a straightforward story? What's being done? And why did you really connect with this essay? Tell us about your experience. Maybe it inspired you to write an essay on a similar topic. That's totally fine. As always, I want you to post your initial posts by Friday, July 11th, 11:59 p.m. And I do apologize that I did not remind you on July 4th to remember to turn in your your initial posts. I usually do that, but I wasn't able to access the computer on July 4th. So your responses to your peers are due by July 14th. That's Monday at 11:59 p.m. So remember, as always, I want you to respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts. Just keep the conversation going. It'll really help us understand what we're learning. All right? So on to your writing exercises. So this week you're going to be working on 2 different types of creative nonfiction essays. The first one is called the lyric essay. Lyric essays really have a lot in common with poetry. They're associative, okay? So they don't just operate on the exact definition of things. They operate on the associative definitions, right? If I say, blue, you say, you may think ocean, someone else might think sky, someone else might think sadness, right? It's all of those different meanings. You're going to play with that. They try to transcribe the convoluted process of thought. So you know how when you're thinking about something, it's not always linear, right? It's not always, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that. Maybe you're sitting there writing an essay, and you think, oh, I got to remember to go to the grocery store and pick up milk. And then when you think of milk, you're like, oh, it keeps bringing you to other things. It's called your mind wandering. We've all done it, right? And it's actually a good thing to let your mind wander when you're following its path in a lyric essay. But the key thing to that is, because it's easy to just get weird, and it's good to get weird. I think you guys have heard me say that. But you don't want to forget the reader as you're getting weird, as you're following your trains of thought. You don't want to forget that the reader needs to follow you. So you need to help them get from one place to another. Densely poetic language demands careful attention. That means there better not be one abstract word in this whole submission of writing exercises, okay? So if I see the word happy or sad or pretty or beautiful, I want you to use metaphor and simile to really up the ante, really make this the most powerful kind of language that you've ever written, okay? I know you can all do it. I mean, your writing's improved so much already. Choose one of the 4, you're just going to do one of these, one of the 4 writing exercises, and write a lyric essay. Doesn't have to be long. I want you to just try out the form. Can be 250 words, 500 words, whatever, however long you want to try it out. This is just to see if you want to try this one for this week, okay? So, number 1, you can make a list or catalog. You can either open a drawer in your kitchen or in your anywhere in your house or anywhere in your life, or in your memory, right? And just list whatever is there. Be conscious of your word choices. Let the things discovered take you on a journey, okay? So maybe you open up a drawer and you find, a battery that was once in a toy, a toy transformer, right? Or you find a broken sunglasses that were your grandfather's, or, tell us the story of these items. Give us that journey. Or you can write an essay where you let language lead the way. So you're going to attempt an essay that is nothing but phrases or incomplete sentences that exist only because the words themselves are powerful. This one, it sounds easy, it's the hardest one. Okay, because you really have to, it's like writing a poem. You really have to pay attention to alliteration, to there better not be any abstract words in this one, that's for sure. You really want to spend time making the language as powerful as possible. Okay, number 3, write an essay made entirely of Twitter posts. These are ones that you make up, not just that you find and stick together. Of 140 characters or less, or Facebook status updates or blog comments. Pretend like you are just writing these quick little posts and thread them together somehow, just line by line. Just make sure, constrain yourself with the 140 characters or less constraint. and tell us, write an essay like that. It's fun. I've done this one. In fact, people have actually written short stories this way, and they tweet one line at a time. It's fun. Or you can write an essay of at least 8 short paragraphs. You can make it more. You're going to print it out, and then you're going to cut up each paragraph so that you can randomly reorder your paragraphs. And you're just going to put it in an order that doesn't make sense and see what happens, okay? That one's really fun too, guys. All right, so that's the lyric essay. Choose one of those and get it posted by Monday at 11:59 p.m. And the second writing exercise is the research essay. So when you write a research essay, you want to choose a topic that you know very little about, and you want to research it. When you're doing this, you want curiosity to drive you. That means let it tell you what to do, what to research, what to discover. Learn from the facts, but always remember the people. The people are the story. So whatever you're writing about, don't forget the people within that story. Make a list on your own, not post it in your writing journal, okay? Just going to take out a piece of paper, and this is just discovery work, okay? Or if you have your own writing journal, hard copy writing journal that you can write in, you can do that too. I highly recommend that for all of you if you want to keep writing. Some of you probably already do this, but just carry a journal with you wherever you are, and if you're inspired, write in it. You might think of something, you only get to hear from me once a week, but somewhere during the week you might think, oh, this might be good for next week when we're talking about short fiction, right? Or maybe you saw something and you wanted to just remember it, right? I do that all the time. So you're going to make a list on your own where you try to discover a topic you don't know much about, but you want to learn more, okay? There's a list to the right here. I've always wanted to, and I want you to fill in the blanks for these, okay? I've always wanted to blank. I'd be afraid to blank. I never seem to have time to blank. When I was a child, I loved to blank, but now I haven't done it for years. I think blank must be a fascinating hobby. I think blank must be a fascinating way to make a living. I have no idea how blank is made. I sure would like to see a blank, okay? These are just ideas. Write them down, and if you discover a possible topic within those, great. You can write about that topic. You don't have to start with this sentence, okay, that you just created. You just start with that topic. But if after filling out all of the blanks, you still don't have an idea about what you might want to write about, then spend about 10 minutes just free writing to discover a topic, okay? Once you spend that time discovering a possible topic, then I want you to research your topic. Go to the library, start there, okay? Or go to our online library and use the databases, or Google it, right? Start with that. Or do investigative reporting, meaning, so say one of the things that you always wondered about was scuba diving, okay? Now, you don't know that much about it, it just fascinates you. Find a scuba shop, go there, just check it out, talk to somebody. That's investigative reporting. Crazy enough, go scuba diving, right? You don't have to, but I'm just saying, this is how you do investigative reporting. And then write an essay about what it's like, to be underwater and breathing, right? Use whatever you find out through this process to write an essay. Don't report back on what you've learned. Okay, you're not going to say, in Wikipedia, I found a definition of scuba diving is, right? That's not what we want to know. You want to show us something in a new light. Okay, your job as a research essay writer is to show us what was it like to discover this new thing? What fascinated you? What lit you up, right, when you discovered it? Or who did you meet who is lit up by this thing, right? Show us something that enlightens us about this thing. All right. So before I give you your final assignment, I want to talk about the stages of revision when it comes to creative nonfiction. So you're going to develop a draft, which is what we start with the exercise, and that should just be an exercise, okay? That's your beginning. Then what I want you to do is to develop that into a draft. Maybe expand it, maybe cut it back, depending on how long it is, okay? Then you're going to work on structuring. You want to outline, imagining the entire story structure, okay? See the end and start writing towards it, okay? Quilting, you want to work from an image or an idea and flip between these as you flesh out your piece. You know, maybe you want to work about this on this part of the essay, but you know what the ending is and you want to write that, and then you kind of work your way between the two, okay? For research, like I just spoke about, you don't read about the period, read in the period, okay? For example, I've written an essay on a place called Pit Hole. Yes, its name really is Pit Hole. It's in Pennsylvania, and it's a place where it was an oil boom town, and it only survived for 500 days, and it was in the late 1800s. So when I was living, I used to teach at a college called Clarion University in Pennsylvania. And when I was there, they just happened to have this special collections with all of these old books, and some of them were memoirs or, you know, stories of people about Pit Hole. And I was so fascinated by the name of it, I started reading all these. So I read about people, I read about the history of Pit Hole, but I also read about the people who were living there. And I really learned the most from those stories, okay? Don't take notes unless you have to. I want you to just absorb the information that you're reading, because that's how you're going to get inspired. Don't research beyond the period you're writing about. Just read and absorb. Read and absorb. And free write off of that, okay? So once you get your draft developed, okay, you have to get to know it in order to open it up to new possibilities. If you feel stuck, put your piece away and come back to it later. You can ask yourself, what is this piece about? Is the language fresh? Okay, are there any abstract words in there? Is it clear? Where is it too long? Where is it underdeveloped? Does it end? Okay, go back and ask yourself those questions. For editing, you want to think about clarity, precision, continuity, and flow. You know, it's a good idea if you have someone else read it for you and ask them, do you get it? Does it make sense? Does it flow? Although if you're writing your lyric essay, this is a really important thing to do. Line edits, that means looking at each sentence and making sure it makes sense. Spelling, punctuation, and grammar, all of that counts on final drafts, guys, okay? Make sure that you've gone back in and done your spell check, you've checked proper punctuation, and really looked at your grammar correctly. All right, finally, your writing assignment number 4 is you're going to revise your lyric essay or your research essay so that it is the best that you can make it. You will be graded on how hard you work on changing your essay from what you posted in your writing exercise and what you post as part of your assignment. I really mean it this week, guys. If there's not a giant change, then I will mark you off, okay, significantly. Spelling and grammar count, so pay attention. All creative nonfiction essays must be at least 500 words and have a title. They must have a title. You guys hear that? Must have a title. I'm really looking forward to reading your work. Great job so far, you guys. We are over halfway. You're doing a great job. Don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. If you got stuck on one of these prompts, just let me know and I can help you find new ideas to work on. Okay? Keep up the good work, and I will see you guys online. Oh, sorry. Last thing. Here's what we're going to be doing next week. Fiction. We're going to do a whole week of fiction, and then we're going to do half a week of fiction and half a week of revision before we begin our final portfolio. All right, that's it. I'll see you guys online.